Yeah, this video is to address some troubleshooting or some issues with the crank arm and knob for the drill operated wire stripper. Um, there's a question about the knob. I guess the knob twisting off on the handle or having some issues with the knob. Basically, if you notice looking at this, there's a nut here on the knob that basically will lock this handle into place onto the crank arm. Okay, so you just want to basically make sure that's tight, and that'll keep this this knob here and this handle from spinning out on you. This rotates along the shaft. That's normal. I mean, that's just part of the design of the handle. So if you hook this up to your machine manually, if you're going to manually be stripping wire, you'll simply just hook it up like that. Drill this and connect this to your workbench or wherever your work surface is, and I don't have this tightened, but as you can see, basically you're just going to hook this up onto here, and then you'll tighten this small Allen set screw here, and that'll attach it to the shaft, and then basically just turn your wheels here. As far as the wire, there's another question about 12 gauge wire, which is about 2 millimeters, and that's about the smallest, generally about the smallest that this machine will strip. You want to make sure that you're, of course, using these plates here with any wire that you're using. Particularly important with the smaller wire, especially stranded, or your wire's got kinks in it, or it's coming from a pile. This will keep the wire centered. With the smaller wire in particular, it's very, very pertinent that these wheels here, if you notice the wheels on this machine, they're a little bit far. There's a small, tiny gap there. You're going to want to make sure to adjust these wheels, and that can simply be done by there's a set screw in each one of these wheels, you can see. Take your Allen wrench, and you're going to loosen those wheels up, and then butt those up against each other so there's a tight tight fit there, no space, and then of course retighten them to the shaft. Okay, and then when you're feeding the wire through, you're going to have to, especially with the smaller wire, it's going to take some extra effort to keep that centered and to keep that guiding through there, especially if you're manually cranking it tougher, just because of the size of the wire. The larger the wire, the easier it stays centered. But if you look at the blade here, okay, on this machine, there's two, I call it a clamshell, but there's two, basically this blade is screwed together in between two clamps here, and they screw together, and the blade sits in the middle. There's a small lip inside there, and that basically is held into it's held firmly into place, and then there's two set screws in the clamp in each side of the clamshell that basically attaches those to another shaft that's in between here, and then there's two bearings on each side, just to give you an idea of how this is assembled. So if this is loose, you're just basically going to need to tighten those set screws. And if it's really wobbling and you notice it's off-centered, it's very possible that the blade has become loose inside here, and that will simply entail loosening up these two sides of the clamshell, removing the blade, and then reassembling. Okay, you're going to do that if you need to replace the blade in the future, should you need to do that as well. But that's the only thing that would cause this to be, wobbly. But if it's, like I said, if it looks to be off-centered, it's usually because the wheels may be a little bit, off-centered, not the blade. The blades, I mean, I've probably sold about 1,500 to 2,000 of these machines, and it's happened in a few cases where the blade becomes a little loose, and it just needs adjusting. That's all. These are all hand assembled, so human error can happen. But this is a great machine for the money. $100 or less. It's under $100. We're trying to basically offer the public, something that's inexpensive and a quality piece of equipment for under $100. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. But yeah, I mean, this machine is built to withstand a lot of pressure. But you've got to understand that there will be some work involved when using this, particularly with the smaller gauge wire. That's just the way it is. It's tough to work with. What's nice about this machine is that the blades, it's a thinner blade. We have another machine that has a much thicker, wider blade, and it doesn't work as well on the smaller wire. It takes a little more effort. But I think if you find that if you connect the wheels, tighten those up, and then really use this plate and guide your wire through, you'll find that they'll strip just fine. It may go off to the side, left or right. That's just something you're just gonna have to trial and error to work with until it starts, picking up on that and flowing through nice and easily. But the big thing is to make sure these wheels are together on the smaller wire. Otherwise, it'll drop down into